Alright, so kule video le kufuna sicheck probability, and the probability sobe siyibheka la is probability ye coin. So sifuna ukucheck ukuthi when you flip a coin, what are the chances of getting head or a tail? And lama problems lawa sobe so analyze using a tree diagram. So a general introduction to a coin is that if we have a coin can either have a head or a tail, right? So now flip a coin, you have two possibilities. It's either you can get a head or you can get a tail. So it means if you flip a coin, there is 50% chance of getting a head and a 50% chance of getting a tail, right? So there are two outcomes. Outcome, it's head or tail, right? And to get head, it's outcome. That is one outcome out of two outcomes. So that is 50%, right? Which is 1/2. So what happens if the coin leli still flipper kaneng bese siyabheka ukuthi what are the chances of ukuthi now flipper kokuqala uthole head and now flipper kwesi-2 uphinde uthole head? So what are the chances? Because ungaflipper kokuqala uthole head, but naso flipper kwesi-2 it's not 100% ensured ukuthi uzothola i-head, right? Ungaphinde uthole yini i-tail. So sifuna ukucheck ukuthi what are the chances of you getting head and head, or what are the chances of you getting head and then kwesi-2 uthole tail. So kanjalo kanjalo, right? So when two flips, starting at two flips, if you flip a coin twice, so in a tree diagram, now you flip your card la, it's that point. So when you flip a coin, it's either you can get head or you can get a tail. So what are the chances of getting a head? Now flip a coin, it's 1/2, right? And what are the chances of getting a tail? Still 1/2, because there's 50% chance. There are two outcomes in total, and when we ufuna A1, which is 1/2 probability coin, right? So asithi uyaliflipa futhi kwesi-2. Now flipper kwesi-2, let's say in the first flip uthole i-head, and kule second flip you can either get head futhi or ungakhona ukuthola futhi i-tail. And same thing applies if bowuthole i-tail ekuqaleni, because this is the first flip, like ekuqaleni is the first flip. If bowuthole i-tail ekuqaleni, now if flipper futhi you can get a head or ungaphinde uthole futhi i-tail. And let's check in terms of the probability ukuthi nasengiflipper kwesi-2 for ukuthi ngithole head, still 1/2. For routing to the tail, still 1/2, because uthatha this very same coin, still there are two possible outcomes. So nala it's 1/2, nala ungathola 1/2 for it if you flip after the first flip. So ile flip is 2. For ukuthi uthole head, it can be 1/2, and then for uthole tail, still 1/2, right? But questions manje arise if ufuna ukuthi uthole maybe i-sequence ethi ufuna ukuthola a head uphinde uthole i-head. So what are the chances of you getting a head and a head, right? And the problem there now we solve ngale tree diagram. Okay, fine, usuka la ekuqaleni ngiyiflipa ngithola i-head, right? And probability yokuthola i-head is 1/2. And ngiyaphinda futhi ngiyiflipa ngithola futhi ini u-head, and probability yakhona it's 1/2, right? So it means the probability of ukuthi ngithole i-head, it's 1/2 yokuqala, and yokuthi ngiphinde ngithole i-head futhi it's 1/2. So you just multiply the two. So is it 1 over 2 times 1 over 2, and answer yako is 1 over 4. So probability of you getting a head and a head is 1 over 4. So in terms of percentage, if unuthola a head and a head, that is like 25%. You have 25% chance of getting a head and a head. So what about a head and a tail? So number one, if unuthola a head, right, and probability yakhona it's 1 over 2. And number two, if unuthola a tail, and the probability yakhona it's 1 over 2 still. So now solve nale, for you to get head and a tail, still 1 over 4. So you also have 25% chance of getting a head and then tail. So what are the probabilities of you getting, or the probability of you getting tail and a head? For you getting a tail, it's 1 over 2, right? And for you getting a head, it's still 1 over 2. So it's still 1 over 2 times 1 over 2, and that is 1 over 4. And still that is 25% chance. And same thing applies now. So now we have a tail and a tail, right? So now from tail and a tail, so a tail is 1 over 2, another tail is still 1 over 2, so it's 1 over 2 times 1 over 2, and that is 1 over 4. Still only 25% of getting head and a tail. Alright, so what if the question label was in a different way, but what is the probability of getting the same flip on each coin? So the same flip, skolmauti, if uthole head ekuqaleni uzothola i-head futhi kwesi-2, right? If uthole i-tail ekuqaleni uzophinda uthole i-tail futhi kwesi-2. So ufuna ukuthola the same flip in both flips, right? Or the same outcome in both flips. So i-outcome yokuqala engazivumela la kule situation ile ye-head and a head. Sithole i-head ekuqaleni saphinda sathola i-head kwesi-2, right? And then another outcome ekhona la kungabe ile uthi sithole i-tail ekuqaleni saphinda sathola i-tail futhi. So the total outcome of you getting the same outcome in each and every flip, head and a head or a tail and a head, uzo-add le nale. So kahle you add the probability of a head and a head, we add another probability of tail and a tail. So the probability of you getting the same outcome, which is tail and a tail and head and a head, uzo add the 1 over 4 while a head and a head, we add another 1 over 4 while a tail and a tail, right? And now so to 2 over 4, which is the same as 1 over 2. So at least